Welcome to another look back for Star Trek Discovery. Today we're covering Episode 3, Context is for Kings. With me this week is Guy Davis, who is co-host of the Rocky Mountain Geek Tank podcast and creator of the USS Tamerlane Star Trek comic. You may have even heard him on Synthaholics podcast a couple of times before.
Once or twice.
He does
Twice.
He does tend to make appearances there. Thank you for joining me, Guy.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good seeing you. I feel like it's been a while. With Context is for Kings, looking back on it, now that we've seen the first chapter, which is the first 9 episodes of Star Trek Discovery, did you get any kind of new info when you went back and checked this episode out?
One of the things that I really feel about Context is for Kings, having watched the entire first block of it, is that this is where the show really starts. I mean, the first 2 parts there is very much here is the pilot, and here's the rest of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, you can really feel that with the Vulcan Hello and the Battle of the Binary Stars, you really kind of were doing the, let's kind of get settled in, let's get kind of working on the universe and kind of getting everything. But this isn't the real story. And so, everything from Context is for Kings on is the story of Discovery. And so it's a great shift, and you can really see it and feel it. So in context with everything else, with everything else of the rest of the episodes, you really can feel that this is the beginning of the real series.
The thing that stuck out to me, again, watching it, and it's something I've mentioned many times in the podcast, is how the prisoner mentions the black badges, and we've not seen a black badge since. That's driving me crazy, because everything is telling me this is a Section 31 ship, from 1031 on the hull, to the way Lorca acts, to black badges on random security guys.
Somebody had even mentioned something at the very, very end of, I don't know whether it was Context or Kings or whether it was the end of Butcher's Knife, but one of them has a 3 and a 1 underneath Lorca's room, underneath in the secondary hull. Has 3 dots or 3 lines and 1 line. So I mean, there's like references all over the ship that are 3 and 1 everywhere on the ship. So yeah, I feel for you. I want a black badge so bad.
Oh yeah, I definitely want a black badge. I love.
I've noticed that nobody has released black badges.
No one's released them, and they haven't mentioned them again.
I know.
And that's just like, oh, come on. You dropped all these Section 31 hints, and then nothing. Nothing. After 9 episodes. We haven't touched on this ever again.
And we haven't seen them again. The black badge guys don't show up on the ship again.
We just haven't seen them.
Well, we haven't seen them on screen.
On screen, exactly.
So whatever they were doing, they've either stopped doing it, or they've moved on to some other part of the ship.
With Context is for Kings, we get our first glance at the tardigrade, which I feel like they try to portray as a horrible monster because it just attacks the Klingon, and as far as we've seen, the Klingon didn't do anything to it.
Yeah.
And the whole next episode, which we'll get to next week, talks about how it's actually a peaceful it's a peaceful life form that doesn't need to eat meat, and it isn't vicious, that only acts out of self-defense.
Right. So we kind of set up the tardigrade as being Context is sort of it's sort of they're setting it up to be sort of a horror flick.
They did. It did have a very horror vibe to it, which I really enjoyed, actually. Yeah. I'm usually not into horror, but I liked how it made Star Trek feel different. Yeah,
it was very interesting how they kind of set it up to be kind of this lots of tense and dark and horror and everything. And they made it a bottle episode too, which was kind of interesting, because then they could shoot everything on Discovery's existing standing sets, which I thought was interesting as well.
Well, I thought it was crazy that they brought in the sister ship to the Discovery in the first episode where we see the Discovery.
Yeah.
I was like really quick to see a sister ship.
Yeah. Not only do we get to see, well, and how long? I guess that really wasn't. It wasn't that long before we saw the Yamato in TNG. If you think about it, it was only a handful of episodes in before we saw the Yamato in TNG. So I guess it's not unheard of. But you're right. It was really soon. There was a lot of stuff. I think the thing that really made me intrigued was how convenient that the Discovery was right there, which I think that Burnham alludes to. You know, she alludes to that somewhere along the line. She makes
in his office. In his office, yeah. She absolutely does.
She alludes to that. How interesting that you would happen to be right there. Well, but we already kind of figure out what kind of captain we're getting out of Lorca. Because, I mean, really, he just waited for the pilot to be thrown out into space. And, okay, now you can fetch him.
Well, I want to know how the pilot sped up faster than the shuttlecraft.
Yeah. Well, I guess the shuttlecraft must have been under acceleration of some sort.
Well, sure, the shuttlecraft was moving, but the pilot on the outside got accelerated beyond the speed of the shuttlecraft because it goes forward in front of the shuttlecraft. I'm like, that's not how physics work.
Maybe the shuttlecraft was going backwards.
No.
This is my ongoing theory.
Shuttlecraft was going backwards the entire time.
Just going in reverse.
Well, what you were saying about how Lorca picked her, you know, Star Trek Discovery is so densely written.
Yes.
You pick up different things every time you watch it, I think, because there's so much. They fit so much into 45 minutes, which is absolutely insane. At the end of the episode, when he's giving her the fortune cookie, he said, "I did choose you. I did pick you."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, he admits to having something to do with it, but at the same time, it's like it's easy to miss.
Yeah.
That yes, I did want you on my crew, but you're not sure if he's referring to just he happened to find her, so yes, I do want her, but. Lorca's so layered, it could mean that he, interrupted the shuttle, had it diverted, and all this other stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah, did he happen to be right there? Did he happen to move the Discovery to where her shuttle was?
Well, the shuttle was diverted.
What did he do? I mean,
both.
Yeah.
The shuttle was diverted. He probably got the lady killed too. He probably tractor beamed her away. Maybe that's how.
That's why she was going the other direction.
That's why she was going in front of the ship. She gets tractor beamed away.
Tractor beamed the lady away. Dang it!
let her die.
Let her die.
Oh man, because I wouldn't put it past Lorca.
I wouldn't put it past Lorca either. He's really a dark character for Star Trek, and interesting. And it's part of. Okay, so here is my tinfoil hat theory of where we're going with Discovery. I really feel like we are starting at the darkest possible point, and we're moving towards the lightest possible point in Star Trek. So I think that what they're going to do is they're going to say, here is the worst possible part of Star Trek ever. And then we're going to watch them grow to Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek.
Well,
that's my theory.
Well, that's what the writers and producers have been saying.
Right.
They're trying to show how we earn that utopian vision that Star Trek is.
Right. So I have a feeling that we wanted to have. I mean, they're going to show the meanest, nastiest, dirtiest character. What's so funny is that Lorca, Jason Isaacs, yes. He's been sort of staying in character when he interacts with all of us too. I've noticed. He's been doing the Discovery's going to make you mad, and I don't care. And it's like the Trekkie's going to be pissed off, and I don't care.
Well, I don't know if it's in character. I just think it's how Jason Isaacs really is. A lot of that stuff he was saying. But I think that it's funny that he's adding to the layers of that. He's taunting us. Absolutely.
Which I think is great. I mean, honestly, I hate to say this, but I think we kind of need to be taken down a notch or two. Just saying.
Well, the thing
I've
is
been a
with
Trekkie for a very, very long time.
well, the thing is with Jason Isaacs and the way he's approaching things is I feel like all the Star Trek haters were hating so much on Discovery because it looks like the JJ verse or whatever that he
Yeah,
was just getting angry
yeah.
and then decided to troll us because
Well,
he knew the rabid dogs that we were,
and
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 he was
frankly,
just
we deserved it.
yeah
We earned
he
it.
was just trolling us, and I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, I think it is too. We earned the troll. We earned it. We really
Absolutely.
did. I mean, because the nonstop whining about the Klingons, the nonstop whining about it looking like the JJ verse, the nonstop, all of that. And of course, I don't think that all of us are feeling that way. I feel like that's a small, very loud portion of
Yeah,
us.
that's
You
true.
know, I don't think that that's all of us. So, there are legitimate gripes about all kinds of stuff, but it's the same. I've said this a number of times on the forums. It's the same complaint that we've had every time. I remember being 14 and hating Next Gen because it wasn't Kirk,
Wow.
Spock, McCoy. I mean, I remember that. I remember refusing to watch Next Gen for well, not very long. But I mean, I
Until
was
the
I was
Yamato showed up.
determined that they were going. And I remember thinking that the Enterprise D looked horrible. It looked like the Hilton Hotel, and I didn't like the look of the
Well, that's
ship.
what they're
And
going for. Is the luxury ship in space.
yeah, it wasn't Star Trek. It didn't look anything like Star Trek. It didn't act like Star Trek. There was nothing about it that was Star Trek. And I remember
Except for
that
the
as a kid.
music and the recycled plots in the first season.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, they started off with the Naked Now. I mean, really.
exactly.
The first episode was the Naked Now. I remember ranting in junior high. All of my friends and we sat there in a hallway. We were sitting there ranting about the Naked Now. We spent like an entire break, like our entire lunch break, ranting about it. I mean,
At
like,
least one, right?
yeah, it was like, yeah, probably more than one. But I mean, it was like, it's nothing new. It's nothing new under the sun. And so when the Trekkies started to really rant about this, I'm like, well, okay, that's cool. But I'm getting kind of tired because it's like every time somebody posts anything about anything now, it's like you've got to go through the first 20 posts of, oh, but Discovery's Klingons. Oh, but it looks like JJ verse. Oh, this isn't real Star Trek. And I'm like, God, it's like that same lunch meeting after the Naked Now has to happen every time anybody posts anything. It's like once is okay, twice, but every single time is getting kind of old. So I can kind of see where Jason Isaac's coming from. Every time he opens his mouth, you have to get like 70 of these posts first, and then you get the people who are like, yeah, you're doing a good job. We really like what you're doing. But first you have to have the first 50 posts of, but the Klingons, but the JJ verse, but the lens flares.
Yeah, it's
So I kind of get it.
we'll
I
never be
understand.
happy. Unfortunately, as a whole, it's sad.
Yeah, yeah. It would be if it was a new argument, I'd understand, but it's never a new argument. It's always the same, same groups of arguments. So, but that's okay. That's all right. We've digressed. I didn't mean to digress into that. Context is for Kings is awesome. So
It's
we get to introduce our new spore thingy, our spore drive,
our spore drive.
which this is going to be freaky because we don't have a spore drive in TOS. So now we get the question of how did we lose the spore drive?
I don't think we ever lost the spore drive. I think it just got relegated to Section 31.
Yeah,
It got deemed quote unquote too dangerous,
yeah. Well,
and too harmful,
I don't think
and
we
so
have a
Section
problem with
31
the card grade being used up so that Section 31 operatives can pop into Bashir's quarters all the time.
oh yeah, booty calls.
Yeah,
Well, that's the thing. I mean, on Earth, tardigrades are already microscopic organisms. So now
yeah.
all you have to do is just micro.
Enlarge them.
No, all you got to do is shrink the tech around them. And then Section 31 guys can just run around, pop up the tardigrade device. It destroys the device, kills the tardigrade immediately, but it puts them where they need to go, and then they pop another device to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I feel like they're just like pills or something like that, like the super secret spy thing in the future.
Yeah. We've got these tardigrades, which we wouldn't, since it's sacrificing a creature, that's not something that the Federation would ever condone, but Section 31's more than willing to secretly tell you, or secretly do it and never tell you if they're doing it.
Which is why I definitely think it's going to be just a Section 31 technology. And it makes Section 31 in Deep Space Nine make so much more sense. How Sloan is able to just appear just mysteriously.
Like I said, Sloan just shows up in Bashir's quarters all the time. And totally that...
No ship, nothing,
He's just showing up in his quarters.
Because I remember they were trying to find out how he got there, and they couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. And if he's using a spore drive to get there, that makes total sense.
Yeah, the portable spore drive.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's really fascinating. I really hope it does tie into that. If it doesn't, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Yeah, that's true. That there are a lot of. I'm noticing they're spending some good quality time with Discovery tying to DS9. Which
in other ways?
Yeah, I mean, because if the theory that the albino is the same albino, then they've tied Vok to the albino in DS9 as well.
They have, and it also explains why he's not happy with the House of Cole, at least.
Yeah, and it explains.
We don't know.
It
about
explains a lot of
Kang.
stuff going on about what may have happened down the line with the Klingon houses, and why you've got kind of a fracture between the Klingon houses, and why the Klingons don't act the way that we're seeing them act in Discovery.
Sure, but we can definitely get more into that in Butcher's Knife Kiss Not for the Lamb's Cry next week.
Yeah.
The thing that really stuck out to me rewatching this is when Stamets is on the phone with his friend on FaceTime.
Yeah.
Which
is 3D FaceTime.
Yeah, 3D FaceTime. It's the newest Apple thing. 3D FaceTime. I don't understand why he's keeping the tardigrade and all this stuff a secret from Stamets. Because Stamets is freaking out about how they're able to make such long jumps, and Discovery's only able to make a couple meter jumps at a time.
I know I got a pretty good feeling that it's probably because it's morally corrupt. I'll bet you anything that's what is exactly going on with it. On the Glen, what they're doing is morally ambiguous at best, and they're shoving these things into this creature's body. You know what I mean?
Sure, but they had to have the tardigrade because she mentions that the captain's log from a long time ago mentioned they found the creature rummaging in the stores. So the tardigrade did a tardigrade spore drive jump into the ship to eat some more spores. They found it, and then they built technology around it. Somehow they figured out how to build technology around it.
They captured it somehow.
Yeah, and then they didn't document it, or he didn't tell his partner in the science at how they're able to make such long jumps.
Yeah,
and it just doesn't make a lot of sense that he's.
They're hiding a lot of that.
And they've had to have it for a while because they built technology around it.
Right. Well, it's Star Trek, so rocks to replicators. So I mean, it's entirely plausible that could have been a week's worth of work. And Discovery seemed to have built all of the stuff to get not only put it into to the tardigrade, but into Stamets later on within days. So I mean, this could be a week's worth of work.
Well, sure, but I'm sure implants aren't that big a deal for. I mean, they've got all the sorts of different things for humans, and being able to accept a medicine. It's pretty much just like a built-in syringe system.
Yeah.
It probably isn't even all that high tech.
The implication that they were making was that this happened quick. That the Glen was making short jumps, and then all of a sudden it was making huge jumps. It was the implication I was getting. because that was sort of what was going on during the little FaceTime conversation was, now, wait a minute, we're only making short jumps. You were making short jumps. Now you're making long jumps. What changed?
Yeah, I don't know. I just
I
feel
think
it's
that
really weird that
what happened was the tardigrade popped in like a week before, and then he figured out how to use it to their advantage.
yeah, but it's so weird. It's just such a weird thing that they're, Stamets is, hurt that his friend has died. And he's like, oh, we're such good friends, but like, the guy was keeping major secrets from him about the technology that they worked on together. Right. I don't know. Like if I was, I don't know. I just feel like maybe his captain was more evil than Lorca. I don't know.
Right. One of the things I did notice they were making a very interesting reference to, speaking of that, but they were referring to a science prize, I realized. Z Magnus Prize. Oh, yeah, he did win it. Ha-ha! I was right. Daystrom won the Z Magnus Prize for Duotronics in 2243. And so Strahl was speculating that he and Stamets were going to win the Z Magnus Prize for the spores. But also, Ira Graves won it in the 24th century for cybernetics, which was referred to in The Schizoid Man. So that's another one of those, for those people who are saying they're just destroying canon, I'm like, are you aware of how many times they're just
referencing
tying this so deeply into canon? And I mean, just like, because once he said the Z Magnus Prize, I was like, that's Daystrom. I knew he was referring to Daystrom. I'd forgotten that Ira Graves had won the prize too.
Sure, yeah.
But I mean, that's seriously, that's hardcore. That's deep.
Absolutely. Yeah, the writers are doing a fantastic job with this show. And whenever Lorca's, showing her the different places the spores can go.
Yeah, we saw the temple in where Miramani was.
Yeah,
we saw that for a second. Also, this is the episode.
He beamed over with the fortune cookie in his hand because I'm like, where'd you get the fortune cookie? I watched that scene over and over and over again, trying to like spy the fortune, and he had it in his hand when he pulled out the thing, the spore canister. And I was like, oh, he did have it the entire time because I'm like,
just holding on to it.
How was he where is he getting that fortune cookie from?
The other thing this is the other thing where they really tied tightly, but this is a deep piece of in this episode comes up one of the deepest pieces of canon that ties in to something really, really, really deep, because this is where we see Burnham quoting from Alice in Wonderland.
That is very Star Trek.
But it comes from an animated episode.
Yeah.
Which is even more deep, because that's referencing an animated episode where Spock refers to Amanda reading Alice in Wonderland to him as a child. And so that's deep canon. And that's like really down there. And it's like, so that's one of those canon listed under, when you sit there and they whine at when people whine about the writers not knowing their canon, I'm like, you're not paying really close attention, because I'm sitting there going, as soon as she started quoting Alice in Wonderland in the Jeffries tubes, I was like, she got that from Amanda, didn't she? And at the very end, she pulls out Alice in Wonderland, and I said, oh God, she got that from Amanda. And she goes, Amanda gave this to me. And I was like, chills went down my back. And I was like, okay, they know what they're talking about. Like, as soon as she said that, I got chills. I was like, well, okay, so the writers have been doing their research, because if Amanda gave her Alice in Wonderland, we knew that Amanda read Alice in Wonderland to Spock. So
yes,
they're clearly tying the world together very tightly.
They are doing it very well. I'm looking forward to seeing how the next chapter turns out.
Yes, me too.
But thanks, Guy, for joining me for talking Context is for Kings.
You're welcome. And I will see you next week for The Butcher's Knife.
Yes, sir. And where can we find you? But first, where can we find you on the social medias?
You can find me Currently, you can find me at GS Davis Art pretty much everywhere. But soon you'll also be able to find me at witchesoflame.com, because I'll start Witches of Flame very soon.
Absolutely.
That's my new comic. But I'm also still doing USS Tamerlane. I'm all over the place. But mostly you can find me at GS Davis Art.
All right, great. And the Synthaholics, you can find us on Twitter at Synthaholic Duo. And we have a Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Synthaholics. And be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends. And we also do a weekly drink video. So I hope you enjoy the drinks that are being made on the show that you can drink with Tivana. Yeah, we're not making Tivana on
Yeah, I was going to say, it's probably not water, which is what I'm drinking.
No, I show you how to make drinks other than water.
Other than water.
Alcoholic drinks. Well, I hope you get to check that out, and live long and prosper, one and all. Thanks for watching.